Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Small Brain Podcast. Today, we have a very special episode. I know I say that every time, but this one I've been looking forward to a great deal. I'm going to tell you guys about every time I was a complete sack of shit when I was employed. And, my employment record, if you were to look at my resume, is few and far between. It is spotty at best. The longest job I held on to was teaching English in Japan, and that's only by force because I was holding on to that job to stay on the visa, to stay in the good graces with the good old Japanese government. So basically had no choice. That was essentially like a sweatshop slave labor job. Just a wage monkey dancing for tips on Skype for Japanese children. Yeah, just questionable employment record. And it all starts, well, let's see. Actually, I have so many stories to choose from. Where shall I begin? Actually, I didn't write this down, but this is just coming to me now. I was an SAT tutor fresh out of college. I was living in my parents' spare bedroom, studying for the LSAT. Actually, I don't want to, diminish the effort I put forth to study for the LSAT. It was a fucking gargantuan effort. I studied for like 7-8 hours every day. But I was like, I need a little bit of money coming in. I can't be a complete sack of shit. So I started working part-time at this SAT tutor place. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm not sure if I've actually ever told anybody this. I can't believe I was studying all day for a standardized test. And then in my free time, I was teaching about another standardized test. And I wondered why I had a panic attack on the day of the LSAT. It's actually all coming together. Guys, thank you very much for being a small-brained podcast viewer. This is my therapy session. This is when I can flesh out all of my brain-dead ideas and my honestly, professionally disappointing life up until this point. So thank you very much for coming along and witnessing a full-blown retard just contemplate life out loud. Guys, this is as much as it is for you, it's for me, okay? All right, let's begin. So, I was teaching an SAT course at a local, I don't even know what you call it, prep academy. It was like a private school. No, private school sounds too fancy. I was in a mini mall. It was like a, SAT prep place, or like if you're failing at math, whatever. And dude, I would just barely scratch by every week. Like some of those kids were doing math that was harder than I ever learned in school. And for some reason, their parents entrusted me with, 40 minutes of their time every Tuesday to help them improve at calculus. Very well-meaning, honest Asian immigrant parents, tiger moms that were forcing their children into submission to be successful. I'm actually very thankful I never had a mom like that. My mom just let me explore all kinds of options like a good white mom should, But those Asian moms, they keep their kids with they patrol them with an iron fist. My mom was like, yeah, do your art, do your music, it's fine. But, she did lay down the hammer later on, and I think that's probably why I, was studying for the LSAT. And I was trying to make her proud. I was trying to be professional. And actually, towards both of the end of my grandparents' lives, the last two standing, they both were just very disappointed in what I was up to. I'm not gonna lie. Like your parents, they're obviously closer to you. They birth you, they raise you. They want to make you, they want to see you be happy and everything like that. But I think they're going to be a little sweeter to you, They're not going to let you know when you're really fucking up, although they may, but they're going to give you a little bit of grace, Whereas my grandparents, they didn't give a fuck. They let it rip, dude. They're in their 80s. They're like, I'm telling you how it is, dude. You're a loser. You're wasting your life. Honestly, I respected it. I respected them for like speaking their mind and being honest. And I'm like, all right, I fuck with that. You're a real one, grandma. And I didn't say that. I never said that to my grandma. But I was like, I respect your opinion, but also please respect mine. This is my life. I'm going to do what I want. So anyways, I still haven't told you about how I was terrible at this job. Although I'm sure you can imagine fucking weed head turned LSAT drone, you know, in a fucking suit and tie, trying to teach kids math. I can't even remember what I earned there. It wasn't more than, it might have been $12 an hour. It wasn't a lot. And so anyways, yeah, you know the episode of The Simpsons where Marge is giving piano lessons to kids to earn ends meet? That's exactly how I felt. She has a quote in that episode. She's like, I just have to stay one lesson ahead of the kid. I'll just stay one lesson ahead and I'll be fine. And that's exactly how I felt. I was like, if fucking, you know, Bao Bao from, you know, and his, you know, Vietnamese immigrant parents, if you know, he's in calculus, I'm brushing up on the next calculus lesson before I see him because, you know, it's like, I think anybody can teach, you know what I'm saying? But it takes a very special person to be good at teaching. And I am not that person. I think I was a bad teacher, honestly. I lacked patience. And yeah, I was just a bad teacher all around. But there was one time where it sticks out of my mind so much. So at a lot of these like dead end teaching jobs, you know, teaching English, teaching music, in this case, you know, helping kids study for the LSAT. In a lot of instances, it's a very unprofessionally ran place. Like I didn't know what I was teaching until like that morning or, you know, 45 minutes before the lesson started. So I would go in there, I would look at all the prep materials. And you know what, as I'm saying this feels like a fucking past life, guys. This was such a different time. I had nothing going on, honestly. I was like, but I was like, you know, if I can scrape in an extra like $500 a week, that'll make a difference. You know what I'm saying? Which is like crazy that money went a long way for me back then, but it sure did. It sure did. But yeah, I would go in and just like, you know, flip through the SAT book, whatever, get ready for the lesson and just pretend like I was an expert. And by the way, I took the SAT like once or twice, so I'm a fucking pro. And also I'm a man with a beard wearing a suit. So listen, child, do not doubt my authority. You know, a lot of it rested on how I was dressed. And that's how you knew I was a bad teacher. There was no substantive, you know, help being given from me. It was just like, oh God, I can't even remember what I told the kids. But I keep fucking droning on. But there's one lesson that I remember in particular. I showed up to, you know, the school, in quotes, and my supervisor was like, hey, you have a special student today. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, special. What's so special about him? She's like, oh, he's special needs. And I was like, what have you done? Okay, you know, I'll earn the $12 for the lesson, but let's tell me about his condition. What is it? Is he in a fucking wheelchair? Is one of his arms fucking, you know, doing that thing that they do? Does he have palsy? Like what? Can he talk? Like tell me what's going on. And she's like, he has severe autism. And I was horrified. I am not trained to teach kids of any level, of any intellectual spectrum or any spectrum of autism. I'm not trained for that whatsoever. I shouldn't even be teaching. I shouldn't even be around kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm a bad influence. You know? I get up to no good and I'm kind of cool. I'm cool enough for them to be like, all right, maybe I'll be like you. Maybe I will do drugs and alcohol. Maybe I will come to my job, just like you're doing today, smelling like marijuana. Maybe I'll be just like you. No, I can't imagine those kids thought I was cool with their fucking TikToks and their vapes and their social justice. No, but yeah, the kid came in basically, and he was like 6'2", like 240 pounds, huge, like starting linebacker for LSU or offensive lineman, whatever the fuck. He was a big kid, and he was like 16, I think. I can't remember what he was studying. I don't know if it was the LSAT, I think, or the SAT. I think it was just like some math or something. And honestly, obviously, the material wasn't that difficult, but it wasn't that I was teaching him difficult stuff. It was that he was a special needs student. He was running around with autism. He was like 16, huge kid, mature, like basically like as grown as I was, had hit the final stages, almost the final stages of puberty. He had one of those like kind of gross, like, you know, brand new mustaches, you know, that kids that age get, which was a little scary. I'm like, mine's just finally coming in and I am wearing a suit, but I think I have to show you some respect. It was like, no disrespect, but it was like being in there with like a caged animal. Like he was running around throwing shit. He picked up the chair. He was like fucking screaming. He was like pacing maniacally the whole lesson, pacing back and forth, like doing shit with his hands. And I'm like, look, dude, no disrespect, but I am not cut out for this. Like, why am I in the same room as this kid? Like, maybe his mom should be here to like supervise, because I don't know how to de-escalate situations like that. You know what I mean? It was terrifying. I don't know. I can't imagine I taught him anything of substance or any useful information for this kid. I was fending for my life. I was like, yes, please, oh, sit down. Okay, so y squared equals mx, but I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I show dominance? Do I try to dominate him? That's probably not a good idea. It was like I was in there with like a bear. Like, I don't know whether to like fucking crouch and hide or, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. All for $12, Ugh. So anyways, went off script for a little bit, but let's see. Okay. And then I moved to Japan, and I won't bore you with a long story about Japan again. Oh, there he goes talking about Japan. This fucking Japanophile, this freak, this loser, if you already didn't think I was a loser. Yeah, I lived in Japan. I didn't go for the girls. I didn't go for the anime. I just went because I had nothing else going on in my life. So I guess that makes me king of the losers. But anyways, I would show up to work all the time teaching English in Japan. I was a degenerate alcoholic. I would show up probably 3 out of the 5 work days a week hungover. I fucking passed out on the curb not 12 hours before starting my shift. But guys, I worked night shifts. I started at 4:40 p.m. and went until like 10:20. So I had 5 hours and 40 minutes. This is a fucking SAT tutor. Can't even do basic math. 5 hours and 40 minutes of work a day with a 40-minute break in there. So I did 5 whole hours of work a day. All right. I probably could have worked more, or, it probably would have benefited me financially to work more, but my company was cheap and I was lazy. And that was the very bare fucking minimum amount of time that I needed to work to be able to afford living in Japan. Actually, by the time I was done, I broke even completely. So I lived in Japan for around 12 months, and each paycheck was like between $1,500 and like $2,200 or something. So around $2,000 a month, $1,900. And that's about what I spend every month living in Japan. And I broke even completely. I remember during Christmas, they gave us like a $80 bonus. And that was like a huge deal for me. So if that tells you anything about my financial situation, yeah, I was a loser. And I spent all my money on booze and cigarettes and, trips to Thailand. So you can kind of paint a picture as to what kind of person I was teaching in Japan. So I would show up to work hungover all the time. And there's actually one story. I'm not sure if I've told you guys on here. I think I may have brought it up on the Salaryman podcast I did with Ben over Zoom. And I fell asleep in a lesson. I think I was still training. It was my first week there. I was literally on my best behavior. I was giving it everything I had, giving it the old college try. But, maybe I was a little jet lagged. I certainly drank and smoked the night before until the wee hours of the morning. And so the language school, there's like a few different kind of lessons you can teach. You can teach, 4 people at a time, 3 people at a time. You can do 2 people at a time. And you also can do 1 person at a time. But all those lessons, all those configurations I just described you had to go off of a script, right? We had to show up and have a fucking script and read off of it and not deviate whatsoever. But one time this guy came in. No, actually it was a scripted lesson. Okay. So it's just me and this guy, and we're doing this boring ass scripted lesson about, I don't know, subject verb agreement. Like the cow moos, the cows moo, stuff like that. Like changing the verb based on or the fucking noun based on the verb. Whatever. It doesn't matter. We're doing like a boring lesson. And I'm waiting for him. He's stumbling over his English, right? And guys, when it's just you and one person, I understand, they're trying to get better. But again, I was a piece of shit. I didn't have time for this asshole to stumble over his verbs. I didn't care. All right, this was my last lesson of the day. It's like 10:15 at night. I went to bed at like 2 in the morning, right? I was a vampire all day. I sat inside on TikTok, hung over as fuck, probably had some like instant noodles before going to work. Nutritionally, we're not there. Spiritually, we're not there. I'm not rested. I think I may have sharded in my pants because of the alcohol poisoning last night. There might have been a little blood in it. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I moved there and within 3 weeks, I had these like hives on my skin. And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, it's probably mosquitoes. There's probably some fucking, weird Japanese bugs in my room. No, I looked it up. I was malnourished. I was like an African baby in Japan, like one of the most developed nations on the planet. I couldn't even find adequate nutrition. I was eating like cup ramen, smoking Lucky Strikes, drinking gallons of beer every day. Not exercising, not getting sunlight. Like I went to work at almost 5 p.m. Right? In Japan, the sun goes down really early. It rises really early. Land of the rising sun. And so, by the time I went to work, the sun was going down. So, I was just a fucking degen. I was a degen. And so it's my last lesson of the day. Fucking Atsuhiko is stumbling over his goddamn verbs again. Fucking Atsuhiko. He's stumbling over his goddamn verbs. I don't give a fuck. I am not meant to be a teacher. I don't care. You're way too bad at English to be having a one-on-one lesson. Guys, if you're learning English, if God forbid, if you're using this podcast to learn English, first of all, congratulations. Excellent choice. Second of all, don't bother somebody with a one-on-one. Like, you need to just like learn some vocab first, learn some basic shit, and then you can jump into a lesson. You shouldn't be like right off the bat, run and gun, or maybe you should. I don't know. But as a teacher, I didn't want to put up with it. It was very boring. And so I fell asleep. Okay, I fell asleep. And maybe you would too. If that, cocktail of variables landed in your lap in Japan, you're an expat, you're tired, you have an alcohol problem, you're malnourished, you slept till 11 a.m. this morning, you haven't gotten any sunlight in 3 days, you're fiending for a cigarette. I think maybe you also would fall asleep at your desk, okay? But the problem is with this place I was working was every lesson was recorded. That's right. Every lesson was recorded. And not only that, I was still training. I was still fucking training for this job. I was new. They were still trying me out. I should have gotten fired. The boss came up to me afterward and was like, what was that? Why did you, what? Like they were like, we've never seen someone do this bad. Here I am thinking I'm some smart, gifted kid, I did well in college. Elle said I'm smart. Yeah. Thinking I'm going to excel at this just because I was good at other stuff. Absolutely not. There is no overlap. To be a good English teacher in Japan, take note, weebs. If you are having, trouble with the ladies back home, take my advice, go to Japan. That's not why I went to Japan. Again, that's not why I went. But if you find yourself in the manosphere and the manosphere is telling you that your trad core waifu is in Japan, maybe go there, maybe try it out, test that theory. I don't know. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but I forgot what my point was. Fuck. Just know the only skill you need to bring to the table to work at your new and fancy Japanese company, whether that's English teaching or an engineering job, God forbid, or whatever you're going to Japan for, just know you're just going to be a cog in the machine. They do not care about your creativity or your ability to think outside the box. Anytime you're applying for a job in the US, a lot of times, if it's a good job, they want to see that you're able to think on your feet, that you're able to think for yourself and come up with new answers and not have to be micromanaged. In Japan, that is out the fucking window. You're a cog in the machine. You're a piece of shit. You are just accomplishing menial tasks all day. And I feel like the English teaching job is the epitome of that ethos in Japan. Okay? You're nothing. Your brain is not valuable when you're teaching English in Japan. Ask anybody, unless they've taught like at the university level. But even then, I know guys that taught like, and they made good money. They made like, I don't know, $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, like, 30, 40, 50% more than I did. So to me, that was a lot. Guys that like, I knew this guy that was in like a performing arts group, and they would like come up with sketches, like musical acts, but incorporate English. It was like a musician thing, and he got paid good money. And maybe for that one, you have to be creative because you're obviously like thinking of music and stuff. But every other job in Japan that I know of is just your intellect is not valuable to you. In fact, please be dumber. Please do not think for yourself. Do not bring new solutions to the table, because we, the company, have all the answers for you, okay? And we don't need you to come up with any more solutions, all right? We've got it. Follow the playbook, okay? And I think that's why I was so fucking bad at being an employee, not even just in Japan, but everywhere I've ever worked or taught or anything. Ask any of my bosses. I was terrible, all right? If I showed up on time, it was barely on time, like just arrived and the fucking nick of time, 30 seconds before I'm supposed to. Even at this English teaching job, again, I bring it up a lot because it's literally the longest amount of time I've held any position anywhere. It was 1 year. And again, that's because it was tied to my visa. All these other jobs, all these other fucking jobs we're going to get to was less than 4 months. Definitely less than 6. Yeah, maybe 4. Some of them 2. Let me look at this list. Some of them just a few weeks. Some of them just a few times, actually. So I am one of the least employable people. Actually, by choice. It's not like I have face tats. It's not like I'm a felon. Okay? It's not like I'm a fucking illegal immigrant. I don't want a real job, but I think, all these were just a desperate attempt to scrounge up some cash to travel or for drugs or to get my parents or my grandparents off my back. So yeah, without further ado, let's continue. I was teaching at a community college in my local community because I'm a good, upstanding community member, okay? And this is about the time that I came home from Japan. I was hopeless. My resume had all these gaps in it, but I say I taught in Japan. Ooh, the illustrious Nihon, the illustrious fucking exotic Orient. Ooh, what's it like over there, Connor? That's so cool. You taught in Japan. That is so fascinating. I'm just going to breeze over this 2-year gap in your resume when you're getting high all day, every day. Although I did have like a volunteer position with this music group on the weekends, part-time on the weekends volunteering. So I just used that in my resume. I was like, 2017 to 2019, I was teaching music, baby. Call my boss. My boss is my friend, my fucking weed dealer. You know what I'm saying? And that's how things go, baby. That's why resumes are bullshit. So if you're a hiring manager, just remember, resumes are bullshit, all right? We're trying to change the public perception. That's small brain American, guys, okay? I was unemployable for forever, and I finally found my calling. I found my passion. I found what I love to do, all right? It doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. It just means none of these jobs were for me, all right? But I could have done well. I mean, I had all of the faculties to do okay. College degree, high school diploma, some okay job experience, but I just didn't want to. I just didn't find it. And this is, again, my ego and my own narcissism and my own, oh, I'm special, I'm cool, I'm good, is that I didn't think any of these jobs were deserving of my effort. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I thought all of them were bullshit. I didn't enjoy any of them. I viewed them as a means to an end. I lied relentlessly on the job application. Oh, I have a passion for teaching. I love helping people. No, actually, I just love making $13 an hour. That's the thing I love most about this job, actually. So what are we going to do? I'm going to be sober for this. I came here. My piss is clean. I'm going to pass a drug test for this. I care enough to not get high for a week, and I have a crippling drug dependency. So that means a lot. Okay, am I hired? If job interviews were actually real. Anyways, yeah, so I taught at this community college, and I think this might actually be low-key fraud. So if any feds are watching this, this is for entertainment purposes only. It was to call it a college is a stretch. It was mostly it was like a community center, but they called themselves a college, I guess just to get more butts in seats. But anyways, it was in English. It wasn't even, you didn't even get your associates, you didn't get your master's, whatever. It wasn't a college. They just called it a college. I don't know how that's legal. And you would get like an English learning certificate. The other classes they taught, well, actually, I don't want to say too much about the school. I don't want anybody to narrow it down. But, yeah, it was just another bullshit English job, but even worse because the curriculum was so incredibly loose. And only about 5 to 10% of the students actually gave a fuck. I think most of them were resume padding. They'd just come from El Salvador or Ecuador or Colombia or Venezuela or Mexico, whatever. Or Congo. I had kids from the Congo. I had a girl from Belarus. I had people from all over. An Italian guy. Actually, the Italian guy was a really good student. And the Belarusian girl was a really, really good student. And her husband was good too. But most of the rest of them were just lazy. Well, they weren't lazy, but they knew what was up. Like they were just here to get like a fucking signature on a piece of paper that says that they are proficient in English, whatever that means, right? They give them a little cap and gown to do a little ceremony, when in reality, they didn't learn anything from me. I mean, and nobody learned anything in my class. We just did free talks all the time. I would come in, I would give them like busy work. This is terrible when I say it out loud. I was a horrible teacher, guys. Truly. Horrible teacher. Any aspiring teachers out there, please do not take my experience as something that you should do. In fact, I hope you take this as inspiration on what not to do. Yeah, we do free talks all the time. I remember one time, fucking Jennifer Lopez did the halftime show, and we talked about that for 3 hours. But I haven't even told you the biggest part of the scam. I mean, this place was a huge scam. Basically, all these kids, or most of them, had scholarships to go to college, which is fucking crazy. I mean, it was literally the equivalent of like a YMCA community center where people are learning a skill for 4 hours twice a week, you know. So anyways, they were getting money from these people, giving them scholarships. And I don't want to say who it was. Again, I don't want to point any fingers or help you narrow it down. But basically, a lot of these people were Latino, and Latinos are very family oriented, and a lot of them want to go home for the holidays or for birthdays, or maybe their parents are having a major surgery or something, and they want to go home, and they stay there. Because Latino, Hispanic people, they're loyal to their families. They actually don't just throw you in a fucking home and say, "Sorry, Dad, I'm making $2 million a month in Silicon Valley, and this is my moment right now, and I'm sorry, but we're gonna put you in the best home. We're gonna put you the best home in El Salvador. I heard they have running water. I heard they have electricity 3 days out of the week, so that's good. So hopefully you don't have a major cardiac episode on a Wednesday, because maybe have it on Wednesday at 3:45, but at 3:30." That's when the power comes back on. So before that, you can't have a stroke or any, episode that's going to require electricity. But I heard they have solar panels. And guys, these are the nicest solar panels in El Salvador. And I promise you, mi papa, that this is the best care you'll be taken care of south of the border. And that's the kind of people we were dealing with. They would go home constantly. Like my class would just be so spotty with people going home. The Italians and the Belarusians were incredibly loyal students. They were loyal to me, not to their families. Pick a fucking side. How bad do you want this degree? You have to earn it. No, you actually don't have to earn it. You actually don't have to earn it, because a lot of them would go home for, don't look at my hairline. Don't look at my hairline. Don't comment on my hairline either. A lot of them would go home for months at a time. And my supervisor or manager, whatever you want to call it, this dude on death's doorstep, fucking ancient guy, had been in the game for forever. And I feel like when you get to that age, you shouldn't be working. And I can't imagine he was making much. I mean, I hope he had enough to retire, but he was working. I don't think he had a family. But I feel like when you get to that age, you're you kind of know how things work, right? He had been around the block a few times. He understands this is a bullshit college. And he just told me straight up, he's like, look, if they go to Mexico for a month and a half, you need to get them their homework. You need to send it to them every day. You need to take photos of all the assignments you do. You need to send them voice notes. You need to accept all of their phone calls. Here's all of their personal phone numbers. And by the way, I'm going to write your phone number on the whiteboard and they're all going to have access to you. Even to this day, guys, in my phone book, I have every student I've ever taught. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names of Latinos that I honestly wish I never gave my number. It's not like they were spamming me, but they'd be like, teacher, I am in Mexico for 3 weeks. I'm sorry. My cousin, he have stroke, you know, or, oh, the cows escaped from the compound. I must wrangle them, you know. Is that, sorry, that was a terrible accent. It oscillates between Indian and like German. It's a very strange, sorry, I'm going to stop. So they would just disappear. And my boss was like, you need to get them the assignments. But I was like, nah, no. If they don't care enough to come to class, then I don't want to. I'm not going to spend more of my time. By the way, I'm not getting paid for that. I get paid by the hour for the hours I'm in the classroom. So, you know, if that happens, if those hours happen to occur while I'm in the building, that's fine. But when I leave the building, I'm not working for you any longer. And that's the agreement. And I guess I probably should have said something to him about this if I had any kind of backbone. But I just tried to slink, you know, under the radar and make my $12 in peace. And I would just put them down. I would just make up grades. And I was like, yeah, they came. Or, you know, one of my coworkers was like, yeah, you know, maybe they don't come, but if they do a little bit of the assignment, just give them like partial credit. So if kids missed, I would give them like, you know, 15 for the day. I'm like 15 out of 100, whatever. Just to have something on the record to show that they were there. But I was like, bitch, you ain't passing my class. Like, yeah, I'll give you enough points to like maintain this scholarship, but absolutely fucking not. I'm not rewarding this behavior, you know? And maybe that makes me a bad guy. I don't know, but it was just annoying. I was like, if you're not, like, you signed up to learn English, why are you not here? You know? And I would say, again, I would do the bare minimum effort. And maybe I'm a bad guy, guys. Maybe I'm the bad guy here. I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. I think the answer is yes. I think I do actually sound like an asshole right now, not helping these poor students. But I just don't agree with that arrangement. I don't know why I should fucking, you know, compensate for you not being, you know, dedicated to this class, you know? And I know I sound like a real piece of shit. I can hear you guys clanking on your keyboards right now because I clearly have no respect for any kind of authority. I'm very self-serving. But then when I'm in a position of power, I demand loyalty. So I can see how you think that. Actually, I think that now. And again, this is why no one should put me in charge. Truly, this is not me trying to be anything. I'm being 100% honest with you guys. I fully, transparently admit that I am a terror to employ. I do the bare minimum effort. I actually saw this funny TikTok. Rob, if you can find it, show it to him. There was this guy and it had this like inspirational music, right? It's a little TikTok. And you know these TikToks, these inspirational music, they're like, yeah, you know, first in the gym, last to leave, like blood, sweat, and tears, all that shit. So it was kind of built to be like that. And it's just like, you know, good looking British guy with a podcast microphone, looks all official. Guys, you can say anything into this mic and it sounds fucking professional, all right? I am all of a sudden a vaccine authority because I have this fucking microphone, okay? So do not forget it, all right? Yeah, but it's this guy like, oh, mate, he's British. He's like, oh, mate, I tell all my friends who just get a job, I say, you be the last one in the door in the morning and the first one to leave.
I would say if you are full-time in employment, this is my advice to you. Be the last one in and the first one out and do as little as you can for maximum pay.
It was like a fake out. It was like, he's gonna tell us to work hard. He's gonna motivate us. And he's like, no, give them the least amount of your time physically possible. And I stand by that. Honestly, I tell people this all the time. I tell struggling friends this all the time. Try way less hard. Show up later. Leave earlier. Put the work on somebody else. Okay? Somebody please clip this and put inspirational music under this. Guys, if you just get a fucking meager $7.25, $10, even $15 an hour, don't give them shit. Don't give them jack shit. They don't deserve any of your time. They deserve none of it. Okay? They owe you something. All right? Because you're born in America in the year 20, whatever the fuck, you know? And especially if you're white, you deserve more than other lower people, right? Don't give them any of your time. They don't deserve it. You're trying to start your fucking crypto casino. You're trying to sell NFT, Bitcoin merch, okay? You're trying to push rare and bespoke PNGs on the public. You're providing a service, and they're taking away your precious hours to start your NFT casino? I think not, my friend. I think those poor Belarusian immigrants don't deserve any of your fucking time. In fact, you should rug pull them. You should be rug pulling them. That's the whole reason you got into this business, was to get children of all ages to trust you. You groom them into thinking that they're going to get rich on your NFT scheme. You rug pull, you're out of there. You go to Japan, you fucking flee to Ecuador, okay? And that's why we do this, baby. It's all self-serving. All right? In all honesty, guys, though, I am a deeply... Oh, my recorder's going to die soon. I'm a deeply selfish person. I want to give employers the least amount of my time humanly possible. And that is why I am just the absolute worst person to employ. All right. So, there was one about Japan that I seem to have forgotten. And that is when I was teaching English. One day during my lunch break, so how do I start this? I haven't told this story before. All right, so the way this worked, guys, is we'd have 40-minute lessons at a time. And then after the lesson, there was a 10-minute break for you to do whatever, smoke your cigarette, secretly masturbate in the toilet, whatever you wanted. Fair game, 10 minutes. And then when that buzzer rang, the ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, you had to be ass in your seat, or you got fined $100. And you did not test the Japanese management on this fact. It was $100. It was strict. Actually, a buddy of mine, I will not say his name. I was going to say his name. I will not. He he had a big night out, and he slept through like 3 of his lessons and got fined like $400, which, if you're making, $1,800 a month, that's a big fucking deal. You know what I'm saying? That's like a quarter of your paycheck just evaporates. So yeah, he basically had to work nonstop for like 28 days. I'd see him come into work, reeking of a cigarette, fucking chugging coffee, eyes sunken in, like, yeah, it's day 24. And I'm like, damn, you look rough. And he's like, no, it's actually okay. If you just turn your brain off after, like, he looked like he had a lobotomy. If you just turn your brain off after a while, it's actually okay. And I'm really invested in Atsuhiko's verb tense agreements. They really fill me with joy. He's just turned into a fucking company man, like something out of Severance, just like a walking, talking, fucking, upper management how-to manual. It's fucking sad, dude. But yeah, so basically, you have 40 minutes, and I don't want to bore you with all the little details, but basically, I had one of my students cancel the 40-minute lesson, like right before. Or no. Okay. We were doing English proficiency. I can't even fucking say it. English proficiency tests. English proficiency tests. Okay, I can speak English still. The stroke didn't have that bad of a fucking outcome. Okay, so we were giving these tests, and they only took 15 minutes. So instead of having a 40-minute lesson and a 10-minute break, it was like 20-minute lesson, or 20-minute test, 20-minute test, 10-minute break, right? But a lot of times the test wouldn't take the full 20, so you'd have a little extra wiggle room, whatever. And so I could see in my schedule for the day that I had all these all these tests line up. It was like a campaign we did at some point in the year, which was just absolutely brutal, because if you think teaching English lessons is bad, you're still teaching something. But when you're doing the English proficiency tests, it's the same like 10 things you say all fucking day long. All day long. Pizza, French fries, pasta, sushi. Wow, amazing. And then if they get that, you go on to the next one, whatever. It's the same shit. It's so boring. I wanted to literally kill myself. Speaking about it right now, I want to crush an Asahi Super Dry and smoke a cigarette in the stairwell, just like I did back then, because it just brings me right back. It was just the worst fucking job ever. Again, I'm not employable. Do not take, I mean, honestly, if you can just shut the fuck up and turn your brain off, it's a great job, okay? If you're single and young, fresh out of college, or looking for something to do, just do that. Just try it. Why not? You're only young once, you know what I mean? Just go fucking risk it, you know? I mean, honestly, it was one of the best decisions of my life. But I talk relentless shit about it just because there's so many stories that happened. But it doesn't mean it was a bad experience overall. It was still one of the best times of my life. But I am, once again, meandering relentlessly. The idea is we did these English proficiency tests, and I got done with one a little early. It was like 15 minutes. And then I had an extra 5 minutes before the next one started. But I looked at my schedule right before this, and that kid had canceled. So I had a fresh 20-minute period followed by a 10-minute break, and then a 40-minute lesson, right? Some other student had booked an entire 40-second chunk or 40-minute chunk of my time. And so this kid cancels for the 20-minute lesson. I all of a sudden have, 5 plus 20 plus 10 plus 40. I don't know how much that is. I can't fucking count, but that's a lot. That's like almost an hour. So I was like, fuck yeah. I just started there and I was like, hell yeah, dude. I'm going to go out. I need to get some groceries. I need to run some errands. I have like an hour and such change in time, whatever. But little did I know, they were expecting me to stay in my seat for the forfeited lesson because I guess someone could show up to the branch and request a lesson with me, and they wanted me to be there for an emergency English learning experience. For me to be available, just mindlessly be on standby. Again, this is what they expected of me, guys. They just want you to sit in the corner and just practice your verbs, and you're like pacing, just like that kid that I taught at the SAT prep, and you're like, I can practice. They just want you to be an English NPC. They want you to be on standby for them because this job fucking matters, guys. It matters, god damn it. Do you want your $16 for this lesson? That was a lot of money though, by the way. That was a lot of money for this school. They famously underpay their teachers for like a one-on-one lesson. It's like $70. And the teacher get paid like 13 or 14. It's abysmal. It's crazy. They're taking like over 50%. Way more than 50%. They're taking like 75% of your money. Or not your money, but you get the idea. Like that is fucking crazy. Even for like one of the cheaper lessons, like if you're in a group of 4 people, the teacher gets paid, I can't remember. Honestly, I don't remember the numbers, but it's a fractional amount. Like literally the one necessary character in this equation, I could teach without a lesson, right? I'm fucking podcasting with like 5 bullet points. I can teach without a lesson, or can I don't know. I was a terrible teacher, but we can freestyle it. We're human beings. The lesson material, the stuff that the company actually gives us is the least essential part of the equation, at least in my opinion. To teach, you need a fucking student and a teacher. And the rest is, also important, but not necessary. If I'm absent, the whole thing falls apart. The whole empire comes crumbling down. But for whatever reason, they thought they could pay me pennies on the dollar, absolutely nothing, to do this, essential work. Right? I don't want to take myself too seriously. I mean, it was still a fucking wage monkey job, but you get my point. Right? And so again, I have the attitude that I am the main character. I have this ego. I just moved to Japan. Big bad Connor, learning his hiragana on his lunch break. And I just got like, in my mind, it's totally reasonable to leave during that half period that was free. And then also for the lunch period. But then also I think what made it so bad was I came back after being on for like an hour and a half with a fuck ton of groceries. Like, I had just like paid my phone bill, got some groceries, you know what I'm saying? I don't think I was drinking. It was still early in the job to where I took it very seriously. And my students' English proficiency was my number one priority. And I wanted to be back as soon as humanly possible. But I just had some important groceries to get. So, yeah, I come back with and I eat a lot, okay? I come back with 4 full fucking grocery bags full of food. And again, in Japan, people do not shop like they do in America. In America, you go out once a week, you shop for the entire week, you get all the shit you need because everything has preservatives and the loaves of bread last 18 weeks and it's no problem. But in Japan, everything's fresh. You get your fucking fish, you get your raw mackerel, whatever, some sushi. Things just don't last as long there. And also the housewives live at home and they're just always available to get groceries. So it's every day or 2 or 3, the housewives will go out and they'll re-up on some groceries, right? And so you see a lot of women at the store carrying one bag of something. Very rarely are they fucking weighed down with 18 kilograms of groceries. That's right. I know what kilograms are. I'm a fucking podcaster. I'm a smart guy with a very fancy microphone, and I know what I'm talking about. I am an expert. Ask me anything, and I will answer it proficiently. Okay? So, I come back with literally, my biceps are burning. I am carrying so much weight of groceries in my arms. And both my managers, they're a British guy and an American guy, both older and pretty serious. And they're like, what are you doing? Where were you? And I was like, oh, well, I had someone canceled and then, free lesson. And this was just unheard of at the company. They had never seen someone act in such a despicable, selfish, self-serving, lazy manner. They just expected me to sit in the break room on my phone with the stained floor. I can still see it now, guys. The stained floor. No AC, hot, the sunlight's just baking you in that room. The coffee machine that made fucking terrible. I can still hear it in my head. It haunts my nightmares, this coffee machine. You drink the espresso in these little plastic cups, and just molten hot espresso is coming out of this machine. You're just drinking straight fucking plastic. It didn't make cappuccinos. It didn't make Americanos. It was just straight fucking espresso sludge. So if you needed your caffeine, to be fair, it helped. If you had a hangover or just feeling lazy, yeah, just chug 2 espressos, have a fucking panic attack, dissociate from reality in your little teaching booth. And, little Bao Bao won't be able to tell the difference. You might be talking a little faster, but you will be alert and you will be awake. And that is the important part of teaching, is you have to be in the seat and you have to be awake. And those are the necessary requirements to be an English teacher. Also, being white helps tremendously. Being a native English speaker helps tremendously. For sure. For sure that helps. But where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. I come back in with the groceries and yeah, it's just a very embarrassing moment. All of the Japanese little salary ladies and salary men, typing obediently, looking busy on their keyboards, shuffling papers. But they're in the office, goddammit. And I was out gallivanting, I might as well have been at a whorehouse on my lunch break. But I come back with groceries, the evidence in my hands. Honestly, looking back, I probably should have just left it. I don't know, found a fridge somewhere on a different floor. But I came back in, and the layout of the office is you have to come in, and everybody sees you. That's the admin staff right when you walk in. All the fax machines and answering calls. The white managers are stiff. They have a stick up their ass about something. They're grumpy. They're angry. They're on the phone with somebody. They're firing somebody. It's this weird, The Office, Japan style. It was very strange and very strict and very hands-on managerial style. And I come back in with all these groceries. Again, probably $100 worth of groceries just for myself for the week. And they're like, what are you doing? Where were you? You have to stay in your seat. If a student cancels, you have to stay in your seat because if they show up, And I was like, oh fuck, okay, I didn't know that. And they're like, yeah, he showed up. He was asking where the teacher was, and I'm like, no, come on. He was over 5 minutes late. In Japan, that's fucking, what do they call that when they kill themselves? Harry Carey territory. Why didn't he kill himself? Why is he still alive? Does he not honor his family? Does he not? Does he disgrace? Does he besmirch his family name? Is that why he's not? I'm confused as to why he is still living and breathing. Could you explain that to me, sir? But no, it was unforgivable. They were like, you cannot do that again. And the way they were talking to me, they had been pretty cordial up to this moment. I just started working there. And they're like, you cannot do this. And I took that to mean, we will fire you. And I was staying in a company apartment. Guys, if you teach English in Japan, or if you do any other job that you think maybe you're even slightly on the fence about, do not take their company housing. It's a bad move. Because then they have their finger on you. Maybe inside of you also. But they just know, like, if your landlord is connected to your livelihood, that is just a problem, especially for how I was living. I was smoking cigarettes inside. I was drinking, carrying on till 7 o'clock in the morning, crushing beer cans. One time my Japanese neighbor, because, the walls are so thin in Japanese apartments, not here like in the United States of America where we have good old drywall and a couple 2x4s. There, I don't even know what it is. It's fucking rice paper. Because you can hear, dude, I heard my next door neighbor like abusing his girlfriend. Not physically, but he was like shouting at her. And I could hear her like right across from the wall, just quietly like trying to repress it because she knew that all of her neighbors could hear it. Her upstairs neighbors could hear her. Her downstairs neighbors could hear her. I could hear her. The other people on the side of the wall could hear her. And so she knew, and she was repressing it, as she should. But my bed was like right on the wall, and I guess her bed was right on the other side of the wall, and just silently sobbing, But the guy on the other side was a lot more aggressive. He made it be known when he was not happy with my antics, carrying on until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. One time my buddy Kyle's over and we're smoking cigarettes inside. We're watching, this was back when Chernobyl was really, hot on HBO. And we stay up till like 7 in the morning, just binging the whole series, smoking cigs, ashing them on the floor, carrying on. And the guy all night is just, oh, that doesn't sound sturdy at all. It's like shaking. Okay, well, we'll talk to the construction company after this is over. But you get the idea. He's banging on the wall, which in Japan is like actually very aggressive. It's very rude, and you just never expect them to do that. They're very docile, very easy to walk all over kind of people. But this guy was like, no, bump, 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 bump. Every night, that even if I was like laughing or talking on the phone with a friend, talking like this, bump, 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 every night. And so it was one of my last weeks in Japan. I think I had just finished the job, gotten my last paycheck, and had like 3 days to move out of my apartment, which is just a joke now thinking about it. I had nothing. I came over with like maybe 2 like pans that my mom had given me, and everything else was just cheap shit I bought there. I've slept on a futon. I had like $100 little fold out couch. I had no furniture. I mean, moving out I was basically checking out of an Airbnb, honestly. But I had a few days left, and my buddy Kyle comes over, and we're carrying on until 7 in the morning. I remember the sun came up. We did an all-nighter just boozing and smoking cigs. It was the best fucking time ever watching Chernobyl. And the guys, bah, 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 every couple minutes. And dude, I was like, fuck it, dude. We ball. This is like one of our last nights here. We ball. Bah, bah, bah. I bang on the door. Right back. He bangs on the door. I bang on the door. Right? And actually, I misspoke. I still had a few weeks left at the job, but I think at this point I was just like, fuck it. It's like when you get to that point in the job where you're like, try and fire me. Try. I want you to fire me. I want you to fire me. It'll force me to take my OnlyFans career more seriously. Please do me the favor of firing me. And that's how I was behaving, right? So I misspoke earlier. I still had the job. I had a few weeks left. And then I come into work the next day, and fucking my boss is like, hey, I heard you guys were a little loud last night. And I was like, what are you talking about? Eyes sunken in, smelling like a bar. And he's like, yeah, we got a complaint. We got a noise complaint. And I'm like, wait, are you the managing company? Are you the landlord? I didn't want to ask. I didn't have the courage to, probe into those waters. I just didn't want to have that conversation. I was like, well, what do you know? That's what I should have asked. That's what an adult would have done. They would have confronted their problems face on. But me being a 24-year-old alcoholic who was hungover at the time, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, you guys were loud. We can't have that happen again. And he kind of did it in like a jovial, kind of joking, funny way. So it wasn't like a overt threat, but I was like, okay, I see you. All right, y'all have you're keeping your tabs on me. And later on, this was when I actually did have like 3 days left on the job, or I think I had just quit or something. I wasn't beholden to the company anymore. Kyle came over. We stayed up late again, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And the guy's banging on my door. I'm banging on his door, whatever. We're having a little passive aggressive skirmish. And then at the end of the night, we had gotten so drunk. We're on my patio. And I had like a little laundry line to hang my clothes because a lot of times in Japan, they don't have dryers. And I took the laundry line, and he lived like right across from me. But there was like a little perforation. Like in Japan, they value their privacy a lot. So it was like my little porch with like kind of like a prison yard type situation. It was like enclosed in. And he had been banging all night, and I was like, fuck this guy. And I took the laundry line and just javelined it across the little perforation into his balcony, and it just crashed. And then we like, and we run inside, and I hope he doesn't hear us. And he didn't make a peep the rest of the morning. I mean, honestly, this guy was probably like a fucking brain surgeon. Actually, his job, he probably had real stakes, right? He needed a good night's sleep. But I was like, no. This is one of my last nights in Japan, my friend. You can get fucked. It's about me, okay? Actually, after I had, moved out of my apartment, my girlfriend at the time and I took her bike over to my apartment complex, and I saw like a random shoe on the ground. It was like, I don't know. In Osaka, you just see random shit, garbage here and there. And I saw like someone's like Air Jordan, like a big basketball shoe. And we're riding through the neighborhood, probably a little buzzed. And I like tell her to pull over. And I just chuck this fucking shoe at his window. We just fucking booked it. And I was like, I'm never coming back again. And I mean, I did go back for a video. But that was the end of my saga in Osaka. I was a fucking terror. And again, I'm not recommending you guys do any of this. I'm not condoning this behavior. Actually, I'm a little ashamed to talk about it. I'm just doing it for entertainment purposes only. All of it is fake. But yeah, guys, I was just a real piece of shit. A degenerate. I mean, people say they're degenerates. People, like to joke. But truly, I was a bad person when I lived in Japan. I didn't do anything like horrible, but I just did a lot of like pesky shit to society. And in Japan, stuff like that I think is taken a lot more seriously than it is in the United States, where it's like, boys will be boys. Yeah, they egged their friend's car or whatever. But no, in Japan, it's like, motherfucker, like, you can't just do vandalism to your name. Like, just because they're mad at you for being obnoxious, you can't just take it out on them, So that's where we're at, guys. I'm just a real piece of shit. All right, we got a couple more. How long have we been going for? All right, solid amount of time. I think we got 3 or 4 more stories in us. Yeah, this other one, this happened years ago, I guess when I was still a child. I think this was actually my first job. I was in college. I was working at the rec center. And, it was a new rec center. We had like a really nice pool, but no one ever used it. It was like the first year of it ever opening. And no one was ever there. Like it was a very chill job. Being a lifeguard, it's just, even if it's a crowded pool, a lifeguard's kind of a bullshit job, to be honest. But no one ever came. And even if they did come, they're college kids just reading a book. Maybe the craziest thing they do is jump off the fucking little diving board, but whatever, it's fine. No one ever came drunk. It was like on campus. No one ever came drunk. No one ever tried to have a party. It was very, very, very chill. And so we would like rotate out with the way the lifeguards work, because you kind of have like a rotation. It was a big pool, and they had like maybe 3 or 4 stations throughout, and you'd kind of you start on station 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there'd be like 2 guards on a break at a time or something like that. And I think this was like January, February, or like December. For some reason, the pool is still open. For some reason, the rec center thinks that their money is being well spent here. It's crazy, all the misappropriation of funds happening at universities. But that's for another podcast entirely. That's not even for me to discuss. But yeah, they're just throwing money around absolutely like it's nothing. And so I get off, the last station and I go to the break room and I'm chilling on my phone. I'm like, well, I don't have to go up for another 25 minutes. And so I go into the gym. I start working out. I'm pumping iron. I'm getting fucking shredded, okay? Trying to fuck these sorority girls, right? Yeah, so I basically worked out on company time. If you thought me getting groceries on my break was bad, literally the lifeguard thing was an hourly job. Like the teaching English thing, like if no student showed up and I didn't get paid, I think I had like a base wage of like $3 or $4 an hour. So I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it was like being a waiter, right? If you're just hanging out and doing nothing, you're still getting paid a little bit, but then you get the real money when you're busy, right? It was kind of the same idea with this English teaching job. But with the lifeguard job, I was getting paid straight hourly. So if I wasn't on the stand, if I wasn't doing something active, I'd had to be in the break room, like scrubbing or whatever the fuck. But they never held us to that standard. Like most of us in the break room would be straight chilling. I got paid to do homework, basically. It was actually one of the sweetest gigs ever. I did next to nothing. Even when I was on the stand, I was just sitting up there chilling. Probably high half the time, not knowing what the fuck is going on. It doesn't matter. No one's there, right? So you can imagine how little I cared when I went into the break room. We weren't being monitored. I'm not responsible for anybody's life. I'm just going to straight chill and do some homework, okay? And this goes on for 3-4 months, and after a while, I'm like, the fuck's the point of this? I'm going to go work out. So basically worked out on company time, got paid like $10 to get my lift on, got a free membership to the gym because I worked there. And guys, this is the kind of, delusional mindset you have to have if you want to be a YouTuber one day. You have to be so self-obsessed and so driven for your own goals selfishly that, you hit a dead end one day working for other people. You continually run out of money because you can only hold a job for 3 or 4 months at a time because you're a bad employee. You work out on the job. You do groceries on the job. You drink on the job. Well, that only happened a few times. But you're an actively bad employee. And these are the types of characteristics that you need to have if you're going to be a big, successful, millionaire YouTuber. All right. Sign up for my course, guys. This whole thing's been sign up for. I got a Discord. We're going to exchange it's going to be the bros in there talking about crypto, talking about bitches, talking about how much we hate fucking bitches, but we love fucking bitches. Talking about how our mom didn't raise us right. She wasn't a trad hoe like these girls in Thailand holding us the fuck down. Right? Join my Discord, guys, where we hate women. All right? Where we only show like our six packs in there. We the only people we hang out with are men. We hang out in men's locker rooms. We like to oil our abs because we are obsessed with looking good. All right. And yeah, maybe we pop a boner in the locker room. That's only because I've been taking so many of these fucking blue chews, dog, fucking all these bitches, dog. I might get a little bit hard, but that's just a leftover remnants from the gas station dick pills, dog. Take my course. Pay me money. Money. Yeah, let's see. What else? There's a couple more. Oh, yeah. When I worked... Okay. So if you guys remember the episode a while ago, it was called How I Afford to Travel Long Term, where I just talked about like disgraced employment opportunities I had throughout my life that allowed me to continue traveling. One of them was laying power wire and digging ditches in the desert in the western United States, in southern Utah. And again, I don't want to be too specific because I may be in some legal gray area here. But let's just say I was, again, it goes without being said, I was a bad employee, but we were in this fucking job in the desert, and the project manager told us it would take I think 2 weeks max, maybe 10 to 14 days. And again, we're laying power wire, we're digging ditches, we're like running electricity through the desert to test, very remote regions of the national forest and again, forest is used lightly here because there was no vegetation, there were no trees, there were just lizards and plentiful rattlesnakes. That's right. Rattlesnakes all around. We heard them all the time. We asked our supervisors to please give us the adequate protective measures to, protect against rattlesnake bites. Please give us a first aid training, or is anybody EMT certified? Do the fucking radios work between each other? Are we interconnected? Oh, if a thunderstorm comes in, what do we do? How do we hide for shelter? None of these things were addressed. We were just, again, bodies. All these jobs that I've had just required a warm body and a butt-in seat, and that's it. Minimal language, English proficiency. Again, a loser job, a loser job. I had nothing going on. This is what I needed to do to be where I am today. Honestly, this was one of the last jobs I took where it was either this. I think a buddy of mine had told me about like a sales job. He was like making all kinds of money, he said, doing sales, and he was going to help train me, whatever. But then like something came up and he couldn't train me. And he just basically bailed like 2 days before. And so I was scrambling. So I was calling everybody. I was in Bulgaria when I was also desperate for money, riding my motorcycle across Europe. And one of the guys there at this motorcycle hostel told me that he worked for a mining company. And he said they're always looking for new people, which red flag. If ever somebody says we're always looking for new people, it means that means people are always quitting. So that should be your next question, is why are you looking for new people? Oh yeah, we have a high turnover rate. Does that mean you treat them bad? Does that mean you put them in the desert with rattlesnakes? But basically the idea was you get paid probably more than you ever could at any other position. It was actually the most money I had made. I think I was making around $200 a day. Yeah, about $1,000 a week, which actually is pretty good fucking money. Honestly, when you're just saving and you don't have any expenses, they pay for your hotel and they give you like $50 a day for food. But yeah, it was like $150 plus $50 per diem per day for food. So it actually wasn't bad. But it was a very dangerous job. Like, it was, the reason the pay was so good was because it was risky. You know, you're in the desert practically all alone. I mean, you have like radio signal kind of every now and then, but it's very spotty, and they didn't give us like the proper radios. And, you know, the management had openly admitted to, you know, doing meth. He was like a heroin addict for a long time. Maybe he was high on meth. Now, I don't know. He certainly acted like it. He had a lot of rage. He had a vein that popped out. Very intimidating fellow. Probably an ex-con or arms dealer. And everyone I worked with is a motley crew of individuals. The guy I was replacing had discharged a firearm in the hotel. He had ordered a gun. I think it was a gun. Yeah, he ordered a gun on the dark web and had accidentally discharged it. That means shots. He fired a gun in his hotel room. No one got hurt, but that's a fucking felony. So they just fired him. Like, you're gone. He also got like acid blotters delivered to his hotel room. He got like ounces of weed that like the hotel reception had been stealing. It was a whole thing. So I come in and I'm like, hey guys, I'm the new guy. It's for my first day or whatever. And my meth head boss is like, yeah, we'll just come to the safety meeting at 7:30. You don't do drugs, do you? Like, it was one of I had a high-vis vest. It was white trash work. You know? I worked with a guy who was like, honestly, the best employee there. But he was still like a blue-collar guy, a fucking army vet, you know? Had worked a ton of physical labor. He had worked on oil rigs. Like, I was way out of my depth here. And I show up and they're like, have you ever worked for a company before? And I'm like, no. And like, what? They told me in the office that you had. Meanwhile, this guy, you know, one of my coworkers is like doing a little dance. He's fucking probably stoned. He was like hitting the weed pen all week. The army vet is like all upset. He's like taking this way too seriously. There was like a goth girl that was like really quiet and weird and probably on the run from something, living in her car. Yeah, I think she was actually living in her car. She had driven from Florida or something. Never a good sign. And then you have me, this like pathetic pussy boy with like, you know, I don't have calluses on my hands. I fucking work on computers. I've just been doing Uber Eats. I just heard this pays $200 a day, so that's why I'm here. And that's what we all had in common. We were all just losers. You know, we go out in the desert. They'd send you off alone. They'd send you up some steep cliffs with a little side-by-side that would like putter out every now and then. It was not powerful enough to be handling those, you know, Utah National Forest, rocky hills infested with rattlesnakes. If you tumble and tip over, you're fucked. And they never gave us a safety briefing on the fucking the cart itself. No one was ENT certified. We didn't have a defibrillator. We didn't have fucking medical equipment. We're just hundreds of miles in the desert. Or not hundreds. I mean, I think the nearest town was like, yeah, I mean, we had a motel. So we'd drive like an hour. We'd be in remote, like literally remote sections of the desert. We'd have to drive an hour to the hotel every night. You know what I'm saying? If something happened, if you got bit by a rattlesnake, you're done, dude. You're dead. Like, no question about it. So I remember one day I had cell service. I was like on top of this mountain and I called the guy that hired me. I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, we're not getting paid overtime. We're staying out here like 12 hours a day. What the fuck? It wasn't hourly pay, by the way. It was just like you get paid per day. And he's like, I don't remember saying that. No, I don't remember saying that. Yeah, if you have a problem, just talk to such and such. It's their problem, whatever. So it's just like despicable hiring practices. Just honestly, OSHA, like the, work safety organization would have had a fucking nightmare, had a field day if they had found out. I was like drafting emails to people all the time, but it was like the state that they were incorporated in didn't have very stringent employment laws. So we were basically cooked. We couldn't do anything about it. We were basically contractors according to them. And yeah, guys, it was just a disaster. But it was honestly one of the darkest times because, again, the YouTube thing wasn't working out. I was really sad and depressed about that. I'd spent all my money. This was a last-ditch effort. This was a last-ditch effort. My buddy in sales kind of fucked me, left me out to dry. I had to scramble in like 3 days and find a job. Rent money's due, It was bad. It was a bad time, man. And so this was a literally last ditch effort. But I thought, oh, it's cool that they're flying me out there and I get to stay in a hotel. Ooh, I'm traveling. I'm going to Utah. Guys, it was nothing. Like these old mining towns. And again, that's what we were doing. We were testing the land for mines. We were seeing if there was enough minerals in the earth so they could excavate it and dig a mine. So there's all this huge mining money, pouring into this little shithole town. That maybe, hopefully, and all the locals are like, oh, praying to the Lord, baby Jesus, that they can bring them another mine, because they're daddy, back in, the steampunk days with the steam engine and the railroads and the talking picture box. He worked in the mine, and that's how they afforded their fucking, trailer. And this is the kind of town we're in. It's not glamorous, I mean, to be fair, I think it was like an hour from Zion National Park, but it was not nice. I mean, like, yeah, the landscape was cool, but it was bad. It was not a healthy working environment. Every day I literally felt scared. I was like, there's rattlesnakes. I could fall down a cliff. No one would know. No one knows where I am. Sometimes the GPS shits out. What if, the side-by-side, like the little golf cart we're driving around, pops a tire and we're in the desert with no water? I mean, the possibilities are endless. And that's why you can go from earning, $12, $13 an hour to getting paid $200 a day. It's basically like hazard pay, straight up. It's like working on an oil rig. And some of those guys that work there were like, yeah, I do this in the winter when the weather's good in Utah, and then I go work on the rig in Houston. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. And that's what I was thinking about doing next. Like, if YouTube didn't work out, I was like, that's me, dude. I'm working on the fucking rig, or I'm going to go deploy in Afghanistan. My options were running out. They were seriously running out. And yeah, I didn't enjoy the job, obviously, as you can tell. It's like legitimately, like, all jokes aside, just one of the darkest times of my life. I was drinking constantly. I was smoking cigarettes in my motel room. I was ashing on the floor. I was spitting on the floor. I was just like resentful. I was just a resentful guy. I was not in a good position. And yeah, the last day on the job, it was supposed to last like 2 weeks max. Like they told us like 1 to 2 weeks max, right? And every day they continue drawing it out. And I remember this so vividly. Like all the details are just etched in my brain because every day I was so nervous about going to work. I was stressed about getting taken advantage of because they were just like not paying us for overtime, working 12, 13-hour days on the reg. We do our little safety meeting at like 7:30 in the morning every day. And sometimes we wouldn't get back to the hotel like when the sun was down. So I had no energy to do anything, no energy to edit, no energy to like talk to Sarah or like have any hobbies. And it was exhausting. And every day they're like, yeah, we just need like 2 or 3 more days. We need 2 or 3 more days. And we're going to finish this up. And that just kept happening for a week, 2 weeks. The job went for like 3 weeks. And the way a lot of these physical labor jobs work is it's not like a normal job where you work 5 days and you get 2 days off. No, it's like 14 days on, 1 day off, 14 on, 1 off. So I arrived at the job and I think I worked like maybe 2 days, 1 or 2 days. And then we had our scheduled day off, like as OSHA. And again, it's like the bare minimum legally required amount of time off for these poor fucking people working in the desert. I mean, we were doing like fucking indentured servitude. Like all these jobs are kind of like slave labor. And I don't want to sound dramatic or anything like that, but they're just like the boss is just like, how can I scam my employees? How can I get the most profit for the least amount of effort? And me as an employee, I'm like, please don't fuck me. Please don't rape me with your wages and your fucking OSHA and your bad employment laws. Please. It's just like them like aggressively jerking off, backing you into a corner, and you like, please, 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 please do not fuck my hot holes. I mean, honestly, like it was like a battle every day at all these jobs. But this one in the desert was like the pinnacle of this shit is bad, dude. Like they might be breaking some kind of laws, you know? I didn't have enough energy to look into it, but every day I was on my phone Googling, what can I do about this? Like, I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of. Is there a lawyer I can talk to? Like, I don't know. It was just bad. And I know I sound like a wussy. I know I sound like a fucking pathetic loser not being able to handle physical labor. And that's because I am, honestly. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a tough guy. That job was way too much for me. It was scary and it went on for way too long. And basically by the time week 3 rolled around, I hadn't had a day off in like 14 days. I think maybe we got to the second day off. So like 2 days, 1 day off, and then 14 days of work. And I think maybe we had another day off and then like a few more days. But again, you don't know when you're going home. Like my girlfriend's trying to make plans with her parents. We're trying to do some shit back home. We're trying to like live normal lives. And I'm like, baby, I don't know when I'm coming. Like, and I can't afford to just say no. Because this is a huge opportunity for me. This is rent for the next month. This is groceries. This is, a flight to the next place I'm trying to film. Like this was an essential work trip for me. You know what I'm saying? I could not leave early. Although I could have quit. But then, at the time I thought I was going to work another job with them. I thought it was going to be like an ongoing thing where I was getting paid to do all this bullshit. Little did I know it was going to be the last time I worked for them. Things would take off from there. But at the time I was like, I can't just leave. I can't just leave them. Like I need this fucking money. It's either this or doing Uber Eats walking. I walked Uber Eats. I was a Uber Eats walker. Can you believe how pathetic that was? I didn't even have a car. I didn't even have a goddamn bike to Uber with. That's how bad it was. I didn't even have a bike, dude. I was walking for Uber Eats. So it's either this where I can make, $1,000 every 5 days, which is good, or hustle, and maybe make $30, $40 a day on Uber Eats. So I'm like, these are the options I have. You know what I mean? I have to stay. And so, we had been out there in the desert for like a little over 3 weeks, and we're just resenting our boss by this point. They had lied to us. They had manipulated us. They had taken advantage of us and our neediness. And I just don't like when people take advantage of me. Like I'm fine if you were to be upfront about it. You're going to say, hey, you're going to work 13 hours a day. You're going to work 14 days straight. There's going to be rattlesnakes. It's going to be a little dangerous. That would have been, I would have avoided the job, to be honest with you. Like those are serious red flags. I just wouldn't have worked there. But instead they're like, yeah, you're going to be outside. It's very, you're going to be in nature. It's a physical job. Like, are you fit? I guess they did ask that, which I guess could be interpreted as a red flag. But at the time I didn't think it was. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fit. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that meant you're going to be carrying a 50-pound backpack with like equipment and shovels and like jugs of water up a steep cliff, and there's no path and there's no, demarcations, and sometimes your GPS doesn't work. I just feel like we were taking advantage of it, and I just don't appreciate that. It's the same with couch surfing. Like a lot of gay guys are on couch surfing. I was put in some tough situations on couch surfing. Some gay guys touched me inappropriately when I was sleeping. Some guy was trying to put the moves on me when I was sleeping. Fucking weird. My skin is crawling just thinking about it. I mean, it's one thing if like we were clubbing and I was also gay and like we were friends or whatever and he did something, but I like needed him. I needed his place to stay. Like I was broke and I needed a place to stay and he's taking advantage of me. You know what I mean? He's taking advantage of someone in like a vulnerable position. And the same is true about this job in the desert. Like we were desperate. Like we needed this money, you know, and they knew that. And they knew that we had to fly out on their dime. They were putting us up in the hotel. They were the sugar daddy. We were fucked. You know what I mean? And they just sold us. What's the saying? What's this thing old guys say? It's like they just sold us a pack of goods, or it was like the fucking cloak and dagger. They're like, yeah, it's good. The pay is good. You're gonna be outside. Everything's positive. And you get there and you're like, what the fuck? There's rattlesnakes. You're not gonna. Can I have snake? Can I have a helmet if I fall from a fucking cliff? I had to like beg them and threaten them. I basically threatened to quit if we didn't get like the proper safety equipment, and they finally sent it out after like 3 days. You know, I had to like beg them. I was like, please, can we have like, I don't feel safe. Like, anyways, that you know, that got a little darker than I thought it was going to. I'm gonna be honest. I'm trying to make this lighthearted, but yeah, I don't like when people take advantage of me. I don't like it when they lie to me. That's why I don't like scammers. Like, you know, sometimes I get a lot of flack for bargaining with tuk-tuk drivers or, you know, local merchants, wherever I am. But I just don't want to be lied to. Like if I ask how much the fucking, you know, pad thai is and you say $15 and I just saw you sell it to a guy for 15 cents, why should I pay $15? You know what I mean? I understand like we have more means than the regular people, wherever that is in Thailand for the, you know, in this example. But I on principle, I just don't know. It just doesn't feel transparent to me. It's like they're trying to lie to you. It's like when you get in a taxi and the guy is like, oh, it's you know, this happened actually in one of my Kyrgyzstan videos, how to get your identity stolen in Kyrgyzstan, I think it's called, where I go from the Uzbekistan-Kyrgyzstan border. I get a taxi to my hotel. The guy tells me, oh, it's going to be like $3. And we get there and then he's like, oh no, it's $5 because it was further. And you might be thinking it's $2, who cares? But, and you know, maybe it's not worth it for the extra $2 to like have that weigh on my mind and to actually argue with this guy. But I don't want to be lied to, man. I don't care if it's 10 cents. Like if you tell me what the price is and we shake on it, that's like, I just want people to be honest. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to encourage, and especially encouraging it monetarily. Like you're going to encourage that behavior. So the next person, he says even a lower price, and then he drops him off at his hotel, and he's going to tell him an even more expensive price. And that's how it goes, right? And I just don't want to feed into that cycle. Like if you tell me it's a certain price, if you tell me the job is going to be a certain way, I expect it to be that way, especially when my health and safety are on the line. I do not fuck around with that, you know? Call me a Karen, whatever. I don't care. Roast me in the comments. I don't give a fuck. But that's where I draw the line. Like I'm not going to be in this scorching hot desert, you know, away from my family, away from my girlfriend for like almost a month and worry about my safety every single day. It's bullshit, you know? So I've been building up to this for a while, but yeah, the last day of the job, basically the job involved like laying power wire in the desert and then like sending electrical signals through the desert and trying to find precious minerals. So throughout the desert, over the course of, you know, however many weeks, there was always power wire laid out, and we fucking, you know, had to go pick it up and stuff. And it's actually really important as you're picking it up, you do it, you like spool it in like a certain way, so that the next person that unspools it doesn't get like, you know, like a rat's nest, like a bunch of wires all tangled up and stuff. And so we're like driving on the side by side, like the kind of, you know, off-road go-kart kind of, or golf cart kind of thing. And I'm sitting on the back and I'm like, my buddy's driving and I'm like, I was spooling it up for the next person. And I knew that the supervisor, this was his materials. Like he brought this to every job, you know, and I was not invited to the next job. I already knew that based on how I'd acted. For me sticking up for myself, I knew that I was not invited to the next job. And so I was like, fuck it, dude. We ball. You know, let's go out in a blaze of glory. So we're like spooling the power wire up. And I turned to my friend and I was like, dude, let's just cut this shit. So I fucking snipped the power wire, and I miss an important part of the lead up. I'm sorry. I've been blue balling you for like 30 minutes. but the idea is that you lay power wire for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards in the desert, and then you test all these sites around the desert. And no one's really looking that closely at the power wire. And if it like gets snipped a little bit in a certain section, it's not going to be that obvious. And if it is, you have to go back for however many hundreds of yards you lay the power wire, and you have to walk the entire line and check the entire line to see if there's any nicks or frays. And if not, like the electrical signal isn't going to be transmitted properly. They're not going to give the proper data to the mining company. And so it's on the supervisor if something fucks up, and it takes a whole day of work. So, I fucking ruined the story already. But yeah, that's the idea, is like on the last day, I would like kind of just snip power wire randomly. I'm like, fuck these people. Like, fuck them, dude. It's like the last day of school, you just throw your binder out the window and, set your fucking notes on fire as if you're not going to go to college. That's literally like, that's how I operated. And again, it is degenerate behavior, and I don't blame you for losing respect for me. And if you are the supervisor in question of this company, this was purely for entertainment purposes. I meant absolutely none of this. But yeah, I basically added like a couple days of work to this poor bastard. It made me so happy at the time, dude. I felt so powerless. I was like, fuck these people, dude. Let's fuck them for the next job, And homies, like my homies by my left and my right, like the guys in the trenches that were on the next job, I was like, don't say anything. And they're like, hell yeah, we're not going to say anything. Because they get paid the same amount. And the job just gets extended for a day. So homie got paid an extra 200. Homie 2 got paid an extra 200. The girl got paid an extra 200. I'm like Pablo Escobar of the poors. I'm, whoever the fuck, I don't know. I donated some money to them based on my vandalism. I feel very good about that. I actually don't feel guilty about this one. I don't feel guilty in any way, shape, or form about fucking them out of $600 at all. Okay. Yeah, we got one more quick one. I used to drive for Uber, guys. And this was at probably the peak of my marijuana consumption. I was overweight as fuck. I was basically listening to Jordan Peterson every morning, taking bong rips, taking Adderall, doing a little cheeky, 2, 3 p.m. brewery run, feeling like I was like a hipster. I was like a cool guy. I drink craft beer. I listen to alternative podcasters. I work out, low carb diet. I was like trying to be like some I was trying to like present as, alternative, maybe one day successful. I was taking acid before, people talked about it. Yeah, I listened to vinyl records. I was just some fucking asshole, basically. As you can tell, I'm just a bad guy. I'm a bad person to employ. I feel like I'm a good friend. I'm a good family member, Takes me a while to text back, but as an employee, I am bad news bears. I feel like, and especially with this podcast episode, I'm really doubling down on the, future success of my entertainment career. Because after this, I don't think I will ever be able to be employed anywhere. I basically just admitted to like low-key felonies on this episode. But yeah, I drove for Uber, and I was basically just high all the time. I remember one time I went to go pick up a guy. Can't remember where. It's not important. But I just decided impulsively to turn on my Uber app. I didn't even have like a phone mount or anything. I actually think I had just gotten groceries. So there was like a case of beer in the back seat. The guy gets in the back seat with a case of beer in an Uber driver's car, and he's like, "What?" He looks confused. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, don't mind that. And I like run back to, the trunk and just hide it away as if he didn't see it. I was high. I was on dabs, marijuana concentrate, super, powerful THC, basically, if you're a soccer mom. Or I guess soccer moms can do weed. But yeah, it was, long story short, never hire me. If you see me walking in with my resume to your place of employment, you better fucking run. Except for a restaurant. I feel like I did the last job I had before I became a YouTuber full time and actually started making a buck on YouTube. I was a waiter, and I actually felt like I put forth a little bit of effort into that. I put forth a little bit of effort because you cannot half-ass being a waiter. Like, you either get fired or you're like killing it. Like, but I mean, to be fair, I sucked ass. I was always forgetting drinks, forgetting sauces. People, I forget to put in their entrees, and they would be so fucking mad, especially those DC elites and the Embassy Row crew, the people from Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, Germany, bad tippers, demanding, always want an espresso. But, I talk so resentfully about that job because I feel like I actually was forced to, try and give a damn. Because again, if you don't, it's either sink or swim in the restaurant business. And luckily I quit before they could fire me. So again, hopefully, I don't know if you learned something from this episode. I don't know if you were entertained. If you liked it, leave a comment. If you didn't, just be gone. Be gone. I don't want you around if you didn't like it. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify, and leave us a review, guys. 5 stars, please. All right. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you. Buy some merch.